Welcome and thanks for joining. Enabling signing to your applications through social and corporate accounts is an essential feature for organizations, as it streamlines the authentication process and enhances the overall user experience. It allows users to access your application using their existing social and corporate credentials, leading to higher conversion rates and improving user satisfaction. I'm Yol Horvitz.
And I'm Borois Bayburtlu. We are both leaders from the Microsoft Identity Product Organization. In this video, we will dive into the integration of custom OpenID Connect identity providers for Microsoft Entra External ID. Microsoft Entra External ID lets users access your applications using their social accounts from various predefined identity providers like Facebook, Google, and Apple ID. This allows users to conveniently use their existing accounts to sign in and eliminates the need for creating separate account credentials specifically for your applications. Microsoft Entra External ID also enables the organization to configure a custom identity provider federation, allowing their users to authenticate for applications using their social and corporate identities. These external identity providers may utilize OpenID Connect, SAML, and WSFET protocols. This video will specifically address the OpenID Connect identity provider option. Now, Yoel will begin with a brief demonstration of the sign-in flow.
Thanks, Bora. For the demo, we use Woodruff Grocery's live demo application. It's a fictitious online retail food store that is integrated with Microsoft Entra External ID into their online grocery shopping platform. Navigate to Woodruff Grocery's demo at woodruffdemo.com. From the right side of the screen, click on Select a Use Case button. From the list of use cases, select the Microsoft Personal Account Live.com option. Read the instructions for the demo. You may review the configuration details of the Woodruff tenant that we have implemented using a custom OpenID Connect identity provider. To start the demo, select the Start the Use Case button, which will take you to the Microsoft Entra External ID sign-in page. The sign-in page renders a selection of identity providers Woodruff configured. Among them, you can find the Microsoft Personal Account option. Select the Sign in with Microsoft Personal Account, which will take you to the Live.com sign-in page. Enter your Microsoft account username, enter your password, or use another authentication method. If you already signed into your Microsoft account, this step may be skipped. At the first time a user authenticates with Microsoft Personal Account or any OpenID Connect identity provider account, users may be prompted to grant permissions for sharing some of their data. Usually, this could include their display name and email address. The identity provider requests this consent to ensure transparency and control over personal information sharing. Once you successfully authenticated with your Microsoft Personal Account or a custom OpenID Connect account, you will be guided back to Microsoft Entra External ID to complete the registration. During this phase, you will be asked to supply further details tailored to your application needs. You can notice that some of the attributes, like the display name, is pre-filled with information shared by the identity provider. Furthermore, this page does not request for a password, as the credentials are managed exclusively by the external identity provider. Microsoft Entra External ID creates an external account in the directory linked to the user's unique identifier supplied by the external identity provider. The external account in Microsoft Entra External ID allows you to store additional user attributes such as the display name, country and city of residence, manager permissions, application roles, multi-factor authentication, and more. Select Next, and the external account will be created in Microsoft Entra External ID. Great, you sign in with your Microsoft Personal Account, and now you have access to the Woodruff application, and you can add items to the shopping cart. Select your name from the header. It shows the content of the security token returned by Microsoft Entra External ID. One of the claims, known as IDP, shows the identity provider issuer name. For Microsoft Personal Account, it indicates that you have signed in with Live.com account. This value comes from the external identity provider and it will be different for other OpenID Connect identity providers like Contoso.com. Next, let's delve into the configuration of your own custom OpenID Connect identity provider. Enabling sign-in with OpenID Connect identity provider follows a similar step for all OpenID Connect identity providers. Here, we will continue with the Microsoft Personal Account as an example, but the process is applicable for any OpenID Connect identity provider. You start by registering an application within the identity provider service. This step establishes a trust relationship between the identity provider and your Microsoft Entra External ID tenant. During the application registration within the identity provider, it is necessary to supply certain details such as application's name, icon, link to your privacy and term of use policies, and more, which may vary according to the identity provider requirements. The most crucial details, however, are the redirect URIs, which specifies the list of valid or trusted URLs that any provider allows to redirect the user after they successfully signed in. These URLs are Microsoft Entra External ID endpoint of your tenant, allowing the identity provider to return the user back to your Microsoft Entra External ID and then to your application. Subsequently, the identity provider will issue a client ID and a client secret or a digital certificate, which you will use to configure a custom OpenID Connect ID provider in the Microsoft Entra External ID tenant. Prior to setting up your Microsoft Entra External ID tenant, it is necessary to gather details about the OpenID Connect identity provider. This is done through the OpenID Connect well-known configuration metadata document, which contains important details about the identity provider, such as issuer name, the token and authorization endpoints, the public key necessary to validate the token signature, the list of supported claims, supported scopes, supported response types, and more. This metadata document is crucial for interaction with the OpenID Connect identity provider correctly and securely. To get the URL of the well-known configuration document, please refer to the OpenID Connect identity provider documentation. Then, you map the claims to retrieve from the identity provider, and finally, enable the sign-in option with the custom OpenID Connect identity provider in user flows. Now, Bora will show you how easy to configure OpenID Connect identity provider in Microsoft Entra External ID and enable it for your users.
Thank you, Yoel. Start constructing the redirect URIs by collecting necessary information of your Microsoft Entra External ID tenants. Go to the Microsoft Entra Admin Center and sign in with your Microsoft Entra External ID admin accounts. Select Overview. Copy the Microsoft Entra Tenant ID and add it to a document with the redirect URLs. This document shows 2 redirect URIs for default domain and 2 for custom URL domain. Replace the tenant ID with the ID you copied. Go back to Entra Admin Center and from the menu select Domain Names. Copy the subdomain of the primary domain and add it to the document with the redirect URLs. If you configured custom URL domains, repeat this step for your custom URL domains. Replace the placeholders with your custom URL domains. After constructing the redirect URIs, proceed to register an application within the identity provider's service. For this demo, we used the live.com identity provider. The registration for live.com is done within any Microsoft Entra ID tenant, including an Entra External ID tenant. For better understanding and clarity regarding what needs to be configured in the identity provider versus within your Entra External ID tenant, here in this example, you register the authentication application in another Entra ID workforce tenant. For the other identity providers, the next few steps should be taken within the identity provider system. Open another browser and go to the Entra Admin Center. This time, you need to sign in with your Entra ID workforce account. From the menu, select Applications and then App Registrations. Select New App Registration. Enter a name for your application. Under Supported Account Types, select Personal Microsoft Accounts. Under Redirect URI, select Web and enter the first redirect URI. Finally, select Register. Record the application client ID shown on the Application Overview page. You need the client ID when you configure the identity provider in your Entra External ID tenant. Copy the second redirect URL. Select Authentication. Add the second redirect URL. Add the URLs for the custom URL domains. If you do not use a custom URL domain, you can ignore these URLs. Finally, select Save. From the menu, select Certificates and Secrets. Select the Client Secrets tab. Select New Client Secrets. Enter a description for the secret. Select expiration for the client secret. and then click Add. Record the application password shown in the value column. You need the client secrets when you configure the identity provider in the next section. To include more claims into the security token, select Token Configuration. Select Add Optional Claim. For the token type, select ID. From the list of claims, select Email, Family Name, and Given Name. If presented, select the Turn on the Microsoft Graph email profile permission, which is required for claims to appear in token. Then select Add. It will automatically grant the required permissions for you. You have completed configuring your identity provider. Now, it's time to go back to your Microsoft Entra External ID tenant and proceed to configure a new OpenID Connect federation. In Microsoft Entra Admin Center, browse to External Identities and then All Identity Providers. Select the Custom tab and then select Add New and choose the OpenID Connect option. Under Basics tab, enter the details of your identity provider. Display name is the name of your identity provider that will be displayed to your users during the sign-in and sign-up flows. For the well-known endpoint, enter the OpenID Connect identity provider well-known configuration endpoint. To find it, you can refer to your identity provider documentation. The issuer URI is the identity provider's specific issuer address. This information can also be found in the well-known configuration documents. Enter the client ID of the application you registered in the identity provider. Client authentication is the type of authentication method to be used to authenticate with your identity provider. For Live.com identity provider, we use the client secret option. Add the client secret of your registered application. The scope defines the information and permissions you are looking to collect from your identity provider. For example, email, profile, OpenID. Refer to the identity provider documentation to learn what scopes are available. Response type describes what kind of information is sent back in the initial call to the authorization endpoint of your identity provider. At the time of the recording of this video, only the code response type is supported. You can select Next Claim Mapping to configure claims mapping. In this example, we use the default claim mappings. Now we can click the Create button to add the identity provider. Great! Now your identity provider is configured in your tenants. However, it's not available to your users yet. The next step will be to add the identity provider to user flows. User flows are structured flows that attached with the applications and define the steps for the users to follow during sign-up and sign-in. This includes the sign-in methods available to users. From the menu, select External Identities and then User Flows. Select the user flow where you want to add the new OpenID Connect identity provider. Under the settings, select Identity Providers. Under Other Identity Providers, select the OpenID Connect identity provider you added. And finally, select Save. If you like to test, you can choose the Run User Flow option, then select an application and run the user flow. The new OpenID Connect identity provider should appear on the sign-in page.
As we wrap up, it's important to highlight another key benefits of Microsoft Entra External ID. It enables your application to trust a single identity provider, which is Microsoft Entra External ID. While Microsoft Entra External ID handles the federation with other identity providers for you, simplifying the federation process and enhancing security. For example, in the future, if you choose to enable users to sign in with a new identity provider, no changes will be required to your application. Furthermore, Microsoft Entra External ID accommodates a variety of types of application and authentication protocols. For example, mobile applications that operate on OS2 or OpenID Connect protocols can effortlessly enable sign-in with SAML-based identity provider, and vice versa. A SAML application can allow users to sign in with OS2 or OpenID Connect identity provider.
Now with a grasp on the Identity Provider Federation, you are encouraged to explore its functionality and learn how to register custom OpenID Connect or SAML identity providers and integrate them into your user journeys.
For more in-depth information and how to automate the configuration using Microsoft Graph or PowerShell script, please refer to the article linked in the video description. Thanks for watching this video. Hope to see you in the next one.